Awesome. Thank you to everyone who is joining us. I always like to do a quick poll at the beginning. If you are able to hear me, just raise your hand. Awesome, great. It's always good to check, beforehand, before you start really talking. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Welcome to a deeper dive and adventure. This is part 2 of the webinar series. If you didn't catch our first one, feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to share that with you. But let's go ahead and let's get started. So today we're going to do how to teach coding adventure, a deeper dive into coding adventure. And I always like to start off the webinar talking about who I am and kind of introducing the team that's here for our webinar. So my name is Lena Saleh. I'm the Professional Development Manager. Here you can see here at CodeMonkey. I've been with professional development team for almost 1.5 years now. So feel free at any time if you have any questions about anything to just reach out to me and I'm happy to help with any of that those questions as well. And this is my Twitter, as well as you can reach out to me via email.
Hi guys, I'm Zoe. I do the marketing and social media here at CodeMonkey. And if you guys have any questions at all about our blog or about any initiatives, if you guys want to write for CodeMonkey's blog as well, reach out to me at zoe.d@codemonkey.com. And I hope you guys enjoy this webinar.
Awesome, thanks Zoe. She's joining us from our headquarters in Israel, so it's a little bit late there for her. So we're thankful that she's joining us at this late time.
Hey guys, I'm Mark, and as you can see, I'm part of the customer and success team at CodeMonkey. Relatively new. Actually, I saw a couple of people in the chat that were from Chicago, and for the last 13 years, up until about October 1st, I was actually a Chicago teacher myself. So happy to have everybody here, and I look forward to working with you guys throughout the school year. Thank you.
And I also see here on our, just a shout out to some of our teacher ambassadors as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here too. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's dive in. So here are our objectives for today's webinar. We're gonna recap and kind of just talk about the concepts that we've covered in Coding Adventure up to Challenge 60. I hope that you've had a chance to play up to Challenge 60. If you haven't, no big deal. Today's just designed to give you a little bit more reinforcement of the skills that we've learned throughout Coding Adventure. We're also going to discuss and refresh our minds on where we find the lesson plans. We're going to go over lesson 12, which is for loops. And then we're going to also play a little bit ourselves. So if you are near your computer or that kind of thing, we would love for you to go ahead and log into Coding Adventure or log into CodeMonkey and then kind of have Coding Adventure ready to go. And we'll show you what a few challenges we're going to play today during our webinar. We're also going to review the challenge builder and we're going to work up to lesson 15. We're going to review the challenge builder guide and then why and what challenge builder is and basically why we use it. And then we're going to leave some time for the second part of our Q&A session for today. So what are some of the concepts that you've learned throughout Coding Adventure? So throughout Coding Adventure so far, we've learned about functions, objects, object-oriented, simple loops, variables, array and indexing. We worked through sequencing. We worked through a lot of algorithms and planning. And then today we're going to work on the last bit of Coding Adventure Part 1, and that's the for loops. So before we get into the lesson itself, we're going to talk about how do I find the lesson plans and where do I go to find the lesson plans. So to find the lesson plans, we go to the CodeMonkey homepage, and sorry about it being a little bit slow. Anytime you do webinars and things like that, your computer kind of slows down a little bit. So, but to find the lesson plans themselves, you will actually go to underneath the lesson plans under the teacher resources. We have all of our lesson plans listed for all of our courses. It's also how you'll access the challenge builder, which I'll show you here in a little bit as well. But these are access to Part 1 lesson plans, Part 2, and Part 3. But my favorite part to access that is to go to the See My Classrooms. And once you do so, you'll log into Once you do so, you'll pull up the classroom that you're working with, and then it'll take you right to the lesson mode itself. You can click on the specific lesson plan that matches the lesson itself. So we're going to be working on lesson number 12. So I can just click over on lesson number 12. And when I do so, it brings me to the lesson plan specifically for that lesson. So I'm not having to fumble and kind of search through all the lessons themselves. Just rearranging my toolbars here. You get a lot of things open and you kind of get moving there. So that's how we find lesson plan. So under the teacher resources or in the lesson itself. So let's go ahead and let's kind of get started into lesson 12 and kind of exploring. This lesson is titled For Loop to the Rescue. So just reviewing, just move this guy here. So just reviewing the lesson mode itself. So if you're not sure about CodeMonkey lessons or how to access it, there's a great short tutorial here for you. We'll actually pop it into the chat box for you as well. And then in the for loop, and then here we have our lesson plan. So you can see we're doing for loop for the rescue. We're doing challenges 61 through 65 today. And then the lesson plans are broken up into 3 parts. An introduction, which is an unplugged activity or some kind of unplugged thing that we kind of unplugged activity, basically, essentially for most of those within Coding Adventure Part 1. Then we get into the playtime, which is always my favorite part, and then the debrief as well. So let's go ahead and let's begin our lesson. So in the lesson plan itself, obviously the very beginning part is just a summary of what it is that we're going to do. So today we're going to, in this lesson, identify the difference between a simple loop and a for loop, discuss how and when to use the for loops, and then we're going to work on completing challenges 61 through 64 together, and then you're going to play some of the challenges later, more advanced challenges within the coding concept that we're working on today. The components that we're going to be focusing on is the for name in the array and then an array. So you have learned in the previous challenges right up until this coding concept about an array. If you're not sure what those are, we'll review those concepts together. As always, the standards are always here. So today in the intro, I'm actually not going to read this word for word. If you want to kind of refresh yourself after our lesson today or what we're working on today, you can always refer back to this lesson. So I took this activity straight from the lesson. I modified it a little bit just because I've taught it in person. And so, you know, nothing ever goes exactly how you want it to. So what I have found to be the best way for my students and for myself. So what you're going to do for this unplugged activity is we're going to review the difference, really introduce the kids to a simple loop versus a for loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my students all get into my whole group activity area. So I taught 5th grade, so all of my students will be up on the carpet kind of around me, and then I'll kind of have like a section in the middle. Mine was always facing the board. So I'll bring up 6 students, and that's what you see here is a line of 6 students. And then I'll bring up a student that doesn't necessarily shine in all the areas. And for me, this was Luis. Luis was an English language learner, but he was sometimes struggled in like the other concept areas, but this is a really place where he could shine. That's a beautiful part, I believe, about coding, is it really empowers those students that not necessarily are strong in all the areas, but this is a place where they can showcase. So I bring Luis up and I line my 6 kids up in a circle. I write this on the board. I write 2 times, step, give a high five, and put your hands down. So we've already reviewed actually a simple loop before in the very beginning challenges 20 through 30. And so the students have already been introduced to a simple loop. So now I just write it out what they've actually seen before. And basically what the students are going to be, all 6 students are going to be standing in a line with their hand up, and Louise is going to walk to them, give them a high five, and then they're going to put their hands down. Now, what you see here is that there are 4 students that didn't get their hands high-fived. So now I'm going to introduce the kids for a for loop, and I'm going to write the for loop on the board. We're going to talk about it. So this time I'm actually going to bring up, I'm going to leave the 6 kids in the line, and I'm going to say for S and students. So S is our variable, students is our array, which is the collection, and in this case is the students. I'm going to turn specifically to the student, then I'm going to step the distance to the student and give a high five to the student. And so I'm just going to do this, and what you'll see is that Luis can clap every single, basically give a high five to every single student, and they'll put their hand down. Now, in the specific example before that, Okay, so a simple loop repeats a specific number of times. So in the example before, there are only 2 students' hands, and then we only just stepped, they were all in a line, so we stepped to them. And then I gave a high five, and only 2 students could do that. Now, if I took both classrooms from both next door and I put all my students in the line, I would need to count every single student in that line. In this case, when I do a for loop, I don't have to do that. The computer is calculating the distance for me. I can actually even mix the students. I can actually even send all the students back to their desk, and I can tell Louise, okay, go around the room and have all the students have their hands up and give a high five and continue going until you're finished. So basically it's sort of like a forever loop. So I'm going to keep doing this until the condition is met. So every single student would get their hand high fived and nobody would be left out. Whereas the simple loop, I had to count exactly how many students. So just kind of something to keep in mind. So why do we even review lesson number 12? Why do we bring it up? Why do we think it's important for you? Well, based on lots of teachers reaching out and observations that we've made in classrooms, it's just a very hard concept for the students to understand. It's very abstract. You know, you have the variable, you have to define the array and what variable kind of goes inside of it. And then you have to understand stepping the distance and all of that kind of stuff. So there's quite a lot to it. It's actually a very advanced concept. Simple loops are a little bit more straightforward. There is a lot more specific planning that's involved, but that's kind of why we do a for loop. So let's go ahead and let's get into what a for loop actually, before we do that, I'm going to go over one more part that's in the lesson plan to kind of review for you, basically better understanding for a for loop. So let's think about my grandma. Let's say it's my grandma, my little old grandma, it's her 100th birthday. So I bake her a cake and I put 100 candles on the cake. But I tell her, because she's older, she might only not be able to kind of blow all of the candles. So I tell her, okay, 6 times I want you to blow. So she blows the candle 6 times. And because she's a little old woman, she can't really get to all of the candles on the cake. So instead I say, for every candle, I want you to turn to it and I want you to blow the candle. And so she does that and she's able to reach all of the candles and she keeps going until every candle is kind of blown out. So those are 2 different examples of the unplugged activities that come from the lesson to kind of showcase a for loop. Okay. So now we're going to go to challenge 61, which comes right from the lesson, and that's what the next step in the lesson tells you to do, and this introduces a for loop. Before we get into this for loop itself, I just want to show you on the story map, if you haven't noticed up until this point, the very beginning challenges within every single coding concept are just an intro to that concept. There's not really a lot of changes that the students do, and then it starts to really dive deep into the concept. So just kind of something to kind of refresh and kind of keep in mind. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it because I already have code here and I'm just going to debug it. I want you to kind of notice what's happening. We see we're running through the for loop, and every time the B is called, the monkey is going to that specific array. So let's actually look at this. So we have the for loop. We define the variable, and we can see when we highlight it, it shows you all the variables that are attached here. And then I say the collection. So if I click on the banana, I can see that the collection is bananas. So that is the array. And I'm not defining the specific index. I'm just saying for every time, for every number, for every banana within this array, I'm going to turn to that banana, and it goes one at a time, and then I'm going to step the distance to the banana. Turn to is a concept we've already learned. Instead of me calculating and figuring out how far I want to turn, I can just say turn to that specific object. This works in a for loop. Instead of where if you had multiple bananas and you're doing a simple loop, you couldn't use a turn to because you would need to have a specific distance. And we can see here, these are not all uniformly lined up. Then we also can step the distance to it. So I can pick up my ruler. I don't have to measure the distance. I don't have to pick up my ruler. I don't have to measure the distance. The computer is doing it all for me. We know computers are very smart, so why not have them do the work for us and just kind of work through that way. So now I'm going to change this instead to show that a common misconception is that we always have to use a letter to represent the variable. You can actually use a word or even a phrase to represent a variable. We use B because it's short, it's concise, and it matches the array. So we want to kind of keep it consistent. But you'll see here that at the bottom, the button actually changed and it says cat. instead of saying B. And you'll see here that he will call cat every single time he goes through it. So you'll see that the index is being called, the variable cat is being called, and then he's going to the specific index. So just something to know, it's kind of keeping your background knowledge in case you know, I don't know, in case a student finds that out before you do. So now here we're introducing the for loop, and you see we have quite a large collection of bananas here. There's actually 11, but actually there's not 11 because the computer always counts from 0. So there's actually 12 bananas located here on the screen. So just something to kind of keep in mind. So we're just going to step the distance to, the banana. And we'll see here that it's calling it out. It's going much quicker. It goes 0, then it calls out 1, 2, 3, and it keeps going until every single banana has been caught within the array itself. All right, now moving along to our next one. This is introducing us, showing us how to click on the banana and figure out what the array is. That kind of thing. But something I want to note here is we've already learned how to do object-oriented programming in previous challenges 11 through 20. And this isn't any different. We want the turtle to move rather than the monkey to move. So we can see here that although they are evenly spaced and we could actually use a simple loop, we don't need to use a simple loop here. We can have it do all the work for us. I don't need to pick up the ruler. I'm just moving and grouping. So to make sure that I attach the object tag, because we're not having the monkey move, we're having the turtle move. So we want the, oops, mess this up. Okay, so we want the turtle to turn to the banana. Okay, so you can see here that I made a mistake, and it says I said turtle.step. We have to make sure that the turtle is still stepping, but we want to know how far, the distance to the variable, the banana within the array. So we make sure that we are still attaching the object tag and we're still saying step the distance to. So now the turtle is performing the action. It's calling out the index each time it works through the for loop until there are no more left in the collection, or in the array is the appropriate term that we use here. Okay, let's look at one more and see what this looks like here. So here we see the say function. And so when we say something, we put it in quotation marks, and let's just see what happens. When I say hi, because it's in quotation marks, the monkey will also say it. And we can also see that there's no way that I can figure out exactly where the distance is that the rat is going to drop the banana each time. So he says hi, and then we also need to do a for loop again. So we need to do for the B in bananas. And obviously the students can use the drop downs if they want. For the B and banana, what do we want to have happen? We want the monkey, to turn to the banana. So we want him to turn to our banana, or turn to the variable for which it calls the banana, and then we want it to step the distance to call the banana. So each time it's calling a separate banana within the array. And it doesn't necessarily, in this case, the monkey is going specifically to, in order, it's going 0, 1, 2, 3. But in a for loop, there isn't one banana that needs to come before the rest. And we do this so the students can see the showcasing of the numbers within the sequence with the indexes within the array. But it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. He can just keep going until he's reached everyone. Kind of similar to when we were giving high fives in the room. I didn't give any specific directions. I just said, keep going. Okay, so we just talked about the for loop. Now we want you to try it. And I'm going to be answering some questions if you have any during this time. So I want you to explore playing challenges 65 through 69. If you have any questions, we want you to pop it in the box and we want to answer it during this time. Otherwise, we're going to give you minutes to play those challenges 65 through 69. Good luck. Oh, it would help if my timer was going. Just fast forward it here a little bit. And if you have any questions up until this point, feel free to, like I said, pop it in the chat box or in the Q&A as well. Okay, you have about 40 seconds. All righty. Nicely done. We hope you had a chance to play those specific challenges and explore those. Now, let's go ahead and let's get moving a little bit more. And as you get in, I'll just make a note of something. As you get in further to the for loop itself, you'll also find that there's some double nested for loops and some different things that are showcased in there. So feel free to just double check those before you kind of work with your students. There's some double nested of crocodiles and some different things like that. And also you can play the skill mode challenges to help reinforce that skill set for students. Like I said, it's very challenging for them. So there's that. All right, great, nicely done. Now we are going to get challenged. So we're going to go through our challenge builder. So challenge builder is lesson 15. I'm going to show you where that is. We're going to build a challenge. We're going to explain why to use the challenge builder and then kind of the assessment and differentiation piece of that. Okay, so how do we even get to the challenge builder itself? Actually, before I do that, let's talk about the challenge builder guide. So over here on the right-hand side is our challenge builder. You can click on the how to use it. So that's under the teacher resources. It says challenge builder, and then you just click right there. The other way to access this is by clicking on lesson 15. And then there's a specific lesson that is associated with this lesson itself. It will walk you through all the pieces and parts of how to do the challenge builder. I'm very visual, so I really like the challenge builder itself. Now this walks you through really great. I very highly suggest you to read it, but those are the two places that you can access the challenge builder. So here's the challenge builder guide here. It has lots of pictures and it has text to support it, and it kind of walks you through all of the pieces, components, and parts of the challenge builder, which I'm going to review with you today. But in case you need a refresher, just check out the challenge builder guide or review the lesson. Okay, So now I'm back on my teacher dashboard, and I'm going to scroll down to this new section that we have, if you haven't noticed that, until the creativity, and it's actually called Create Challenges. So I'm going to click on Create Challenges, and I'm going to start coding. The first thing you see here is that Gordo doesn't have any text associated to him. He doesn't have a word bubble. He's not giving direction. So it's the student's job to tell their users how to solve this challenge, or maybe give them a tip or something like that. It's a really good place to work on digital citizenship, because we know that kids like to pop in words in there that they think that we're not going to see. So that's just something to know. A really good place to work on the spelling and punctuation and all of that good kind of stuff, kind of tying in multiple disciplines into the area, or into the lesson itself, because computer science doesn't always have to be taught in isolation like many people assume that it has to be. Okay, so now we're on the challenge builder itself. I just exited out of Gordo. I didn't give him any directions yet. I didn't give him directions because I want to wait until I figure out what I'm going to be creating before I actually give him the directions. The first thing though I am going to do is click on this pencil, and I'm going to name my challenge. So in this case, I'm just going to call it webinar. And then I'm just going to click the check sign, and I'm going to do that. Okay, so let's see what I see here first. So here we have a challenge that looks similar to challenge number 1 of Coding Adventure. It's basically the same thing, except we're going to build it. So I'm going to actually click on the configurations, and the configurations is what I like to call behind the scenes. So here we can see the monkey. We can see that he is located where he is on his XY coordinate. Something that is a misconception really with this is, even though we know this is working on a plane, on the XY coordinate plane, 0, 0 for any programming is actually here at the top. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. And you can see that as I move him, his XY coordinates are changing. When I rotate him, his rotation is changing, all of that good stuff. When I click on the banana, here we have the banana and we have the XY. You'll see that the banana is now added underneath the other banana because it's an array. So we can move these separately. We can spin them. We can see that it's going to keep track of everywhere that it is. So that's the banana piece. If I don't want an object, I just throw it in the trash. Bye-bye, see you later. So these 3 rectangles here, if I click on them, that changes the background. Just something to kind of keep in mind is that I really try to suggest that the students don't use something that they haven't been exposed to. So some of the backgrounds, although we are now reaching the end of Coding Adventure Part 1, they've been exposed to a lot of these backgrounds, but I just suggest them only using things that they've been exposed to. So let's say we've used the dark water like we just used in challenge number 63. So we can kind of put him there. And then if we click the plus sign here, we can add objects to our challenge. Something to note is that as the students, the animals only open up as the students are exposed to those challenges. So going back to our lesson mode, how do I even find those? Oops. Sorry, I had this up and then I kind of got out of there. Ooh, in our challenge, let me just actually go there so you can actually see. How you always have it there and then you lose it. Anyway, so in the lesson mode itself, in the actual lessons or in the lesson mode itself, when you get there on the right-hand side underneath the challenges is the character review card. In the character review card, I've mentioned this in the previous webinar, so it's there, but it'll show you when the students have been exposed to that specific character. So that's just important to note, because you can sometimes teachers ask that question, like, why can they see something that I can't? Why can't they see something I can see? The goat actually will break bananas and ice, so that's something that they are exposed to later. And the tiger and the polar bear will chase the monkey. They like him. They think of him as food, so they'll chase him. And if the students don't know how to program them, there's no sense in having characters they don't know how to use. So the students can then add objects to the screen. And then unfortunately, all the objects are always unlocked, but always reminding the students we only what we know. So like the ice they haven't been exposed to yet, like those things. So we want to make sure that they are using the right things that they already know how to do. So now I'm just going to go try it. And this is where the students play, basically solve their own challenges here. And then something to note here on the bottom is these buttons. Let's say I'm not going to use the say button. I just hit the minus, the minus button, and it will go. And I can also add concepts. And you can see that the concepts get pretty advanced: recursion, greater than, the weight, that kind of thing. So I'm only adding buttons that I've been exposed to. So there's that part. So let me just go back to the land here. So why do we use Challenge Builder, and what is it even important for us? It's a really great place to have differentiation. So students seem like they're really strong, and maybe, you know, they're saying I'm getting bored or whatever it is. It's a really great way for them to showcase what they. So a student may be really strong in solving the coding adventure challenges, but when they go to represent it, rebuild it, and recreate it, they might not have the same strength that they showcased in the challenges themselves. So this is a really great place to have that additional assessment, or even have that extra enrichment or differentiation practice. So let's just say I have these bananas here. I'm going to add another one. I'll put my banana here and just kind of show you. I'm just going to have the monkey turn to this banana. And then I'm going to have him step, and maybe I pick up the ruler and I measure it, and I have him step 11, and we'll see that I click run. Not only do I solve the challenge, but I also need to write a message here at the end. So that's just something also to kind of keep in mind. Then I want to share it. Oh, before I share, I always save. So this is important to note. Students will share before they've saved, and it will not share what they built. So I have to make sure of that. So then I'm going to continue editing, and let's say I'm going to share. I've finished building, ready to go. I have it on private right now. It's really not private for the student because it is showcasing in your showroom on your classroom's page, in the showroom page. Those are all populated there, and they're all listed. You can search by student and all of that good stuff there. So that's what the private is. It means they can only see it. If they do the classroom and they publish it, then it will, let me just show you what this looks like. Then for the student over here on the right-hand side, you'll see that all of the challenges that they've created and shared with their classroom, they're able to play and do all of that over there on that right-hand side. So that's just the place where the students actually see it themselves. Okay, then I can create a live link here. Now this is really great. So I used to have like the Remind app, and I would copy this link and I would share it with my parents so they could play what the students had created that day. Really great place to create buy-in, or even doing like an arcade day, embedding that in your web page, like that kind of a thing. You can copy the link and it's a live link. And then when you publish the CodeMonkey community, it goes into the Discover page, or the Discover tab. So I'll show you where that is. So when I publish it, just keep in mind it is heavily vetted. And so the students tend to write things that they think might not be, you know, that I think that we can't see, but we can see them. So it's always pretty heavily vetted as far as that goes. Okay, so in the Discover tab, I just want to show you where everything is placed. So in the Discover tab, I will click on Challenges. So how I got there is I went to the main home CodeMonkey page, I clicked on Discover, and then I go to the challenges. Keith, that is a great question, and I will answer for you that here at the end. And then we have all the challenges, and these are where all the students have published them. You can actually sort by language as well. We have 10 million users, over 10 million users worldwide, so it might just be nice to kind of sort by English as well. And then what you'll do is you can just have the students create a challenge. For example, probably, I hope they're using a forever loop in this challenge specifically itself, but the students can play their own challenges, other people's challenges. So what better way to challenge yourself in a new way than to play another student's challenge? And students can also like it, and the students can see how many people have viewed their challenges. So that's always like as well. me just get this to refresh here. And when they're sharing worldwide, it's a really great place for them to make sure that their grammar is correct and that they're using the appropriate language. My internet doesn't seem to be loading this challenge, but it's the way that you can kind of access that as well. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you can, the students can each other's challenges and other people's from worldwide users. So there's some really great ones on here. You know, the kids have really, their kids get really creative and they do things that you wouldn't think they would. So it's just a nice way to kind of do that as well. So here we can see there's no capitalization, there's no period. So just kind of something to kind of keep in mind. If sharing this publicly, you really want to do your best work. So the student has left these buttons at the bottom. So there must be something here like stepping the distance to, maybe turning to the banana. This is more challenging because these are blocking them off. So it's a really fun one to kind of play and solve. Okay, so we have reviewed the concepts that we've covered up until challenge number 60. We reviewed where to find the lesson plans in the lesson mode itself and under the teacher resources. We reviewed for loops and went into lesson 12, and you guys got to play a little bit of the challenges yourself. We reviewed the challenge builder, lesson 15, the challenge builder guide, where it's located, remember, is under the teacher resources. We use the challenge builder for additional assessment, as well as maybe for a student that's struggling, or just a way to create a little bit more of that like extra challenge, I guess, in a way. And then we're gonna do some more Q&A here. Before I get to your questions, I see some really great questions, which I'm gonna review with you, go over here for you. I want time for your questions because it's interactive. But we do have our new Banana Tails course. So if you haven't had the chance to check it out on the CodeMonkey page, you can click on the different courses and you can see Banana Tails. Banana Tails is geared for grades 5 through 8. It is a full Python course, similar to Coding Adventure, but walking them through the Python, basically coding concepts and components and things that they need to know to become immersed in the world of Python. CodeMonkey Junior is really designed for pre-readers. It is a block-based course, but there are no words. They're using arrows to kind of get and collect the banana. And then our brand new course is Beaver Achiever. This is a block-based course geared for really grades 1 and 2. They work through some coding concepts and some challenges, and it's based on Blockly. So it's just a little less reading, but still working through the computational thinking and programming and all of that kind of stuff. And then if you haven't noticed, you can now find us specifically at codemonkey.com. Before it was playcodemonkey.com. Even if you type in playcodemonkey.com, it will redirect you, but you just can go to codemonkey.com and find us there. So now we're gonna leave some time for Q&A. So Keith asked this question and I'll go ahead and go through it with you. He said, where exactly is the showroom located on my teacher's page? And I know Zoe answered that, but I would like to show you where that is because sometimes it can be like, whoa, where is it? So I clicked on my See My Classrooms, and then I'm gonna click on my classroom, which I would like to find their actual challenges themselves. And you'll see here along the top, there is the showroom. So I'll just click here on the showroom. And as students create the challenges, they will just populate here, and it says created by student, and then at the top over here you can search by a specific student. Let's say you're not trying to find every single one of them there. Okay, and then Melissa asked me a question regarding the challenge builder itself. So let's go to the challenge builder. She said, where do you click to add the other buttons for the challenge builder? So let me get back to the challenge builder here so I can show you. But basically on the bottom of the challenge itself, there's like a little plus sign. We just organized our courses and I love it. They're now organized by course, and it's great. So Melissa, down here at the bottom where this plus, see how when I hover over it, there's a minus sign, I can take away ones I don't want. And then if I add the plus sign, I can add ones that I want. So there's that. Zoe, I think you could probably help me with Donna's question here. Her question is, if my students share a challenge to their group, is that only their class? I have 4 classes using CM and would love for them to see each other's challenges before sharing with the public. I believe that the challenges, Zoe, do you want to answer that?
Yes, that's a great question. So the challenges are accessible to that class only. But we can get back to you regarding having the other students see it. You can also have them share the links, and then the rest of the students can see it. But I believe it's only for the specific class that they're in. And we will get back to you to see if it's possible to have them see the other your other classrooms challenges as well.
And then we had one more question in this. Thanks, Zoe. That was a great answer. Can a student publish it in the CodeMonkey community or limits to the classroom? So you can publish it to the classroom and to the community. You can share both. It does not limit you to do one or the other. So let's say like Donna, your class is loving Jimmy's challenge or Sally's challenge, and they're like, it's the best one. And so you allow them to like share it to the community. You can do both. So there's no limitations there. Is there any option on CodeMonkey to share the link? Is that, I'm sorry, can you just clarify for me? Is that for Divya? Sorry, I don't want to butcher your name there. Are you talking specifically for the challenge itself or for anything else as far as coding adventure? Oh, for the challenge created. Yes, there is. So when you are, that's a great question. So is there a way to share a live link when the challenge has been created? There is. When you click share and you click right here, it's kind of small, but it's right here. It has link settings. You can turn the link on, and when you do, then you can copy the link. So great for sharing and all of that good stuff. So just another way. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are, honoring your time, and we thank you so much for spending time with us. If there are any other questions, okay, it seems like we're pretty good, making pretty good time here. Just wanted to let you know that you can, let's go back here. Oh, I forgot about this. I don't know if you guys noticed along the bottom, but there was a teacher in a little car kind of crawling along the bottom here. I personally love this little teacher in the car because we are designed to put you, the teacher, in the driver's seat. And we want to make it just as easy to drive a car as it is for you to code. So you can also follow us along on Twitter at CodeMonkey STU or on our Instagram. Or if you have any questions following the webinar, please email us with any questions that you have. We thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and we hope that you continue to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. Bye. Have a great day.